I am writing to share an experience that remains the most unsettling of my life. It all happened a few years ago during a visit to a city where many of my schoolmates, including my 3 best friends, had found work. Although I live relatively close to the capital, I had never really had the chance to explore it. I had only been there once on a family outing, so this was the first time I used the metro on my own. At first I felt a bit lost, but once I got a map, I began to move with confidence. I was there for 2 weeks, and each day I became more familiar with the transportation system. One night before leaving, I was with friends at a bar near Reforma when I received a call from a friend I hadn't been able to see. She asked me to accompany her to an event behind the cathedral, where they were heading after an exhibition by one of her friends. We agreed to meet at the corner of Bellas Artes to walk together. I said goodbye to my friends and took the metro to Bellas Artes. I remember the station was full of people rushing toward the last car. Once I arrived, I got off and, unsure of where to exit, felt a bit disoriented. I saw several exits, but wasn't sure which one would take me to the palace. I decided to go out the nearest. However, as I turned and climbed the stairs, I encountered a woman lying on the first step. Her position was strange, almost as if she were sleeping. I politely asked her to move so I could pass, but received no response. A feeling of unease washed over. I tried to wake her by touching her arm, and when I did, I felt an alarming rigidity. At that moment, I realized I was trying to wake a corpse. Panic seized me. I quickly sought help and found a police officer turnstile. I explained the situation, and together we approached the woman. When the officer moved her slightly, I could see her gray hair, neatly styled, dirty coat that made her appear homeless, contrasting with the pristine blue sweater she wore underneath. I didn't see her face, but the atmosphere became tense. The officer began to speak over the radio, and soon several workers approached, closing off the staircase entrance. The worried voices from the other side mixed my growing anxiety. I didn't know what to expect, and my mind filled with fear. Would I have to give a statement at the police station? Would I find myself in trouble for trying to help? That night, the city became an even stranger and more unsettling place for me. Suddenly, a cleaning lady appeared, rushing toward me. I asked her if she could wait for the police, and she said yes. At that moment, a nearby door opened, and I asked her if there was any problem with me leaving. She indicated that I should exit through the next door, pointing me in the direction to go. But just as I took a few steps, she stopped me with a question that froze my blood. "But where is the dead woman?" I turned to point her out, but to my horror, I discovered that no one was on the stairs, and I swore she had been. And it took the lady a few seconds to believe, looking at the paleness of my face and my difficulty to breathe. An older man in a cleaning uniform rushed past us toward the platform. The lady wanted to shout to him that the woman wasn't there, but he called her to his side, and they spoke for a few seconds, just a few meters away. However, I could hear nothing beyond my frantic breathing and the pounding of my heart echoing in my head. The man told her something, and she returned to me with a worried expression. She said they had seen a woman throw herself onto the track and had run toward the tunnel, but they hadn't found her. I knew this was too much. I wanted to get out of the station as quickly as possible. The lady explained how to reach an exit, and without thinking, I ran toward it. I completely forgot where I was originally headed and ended up exit the back of the Palacio de Bellas Artes. The park next to the palace looked dark, eerie, nothing like I remembered from my previous. In that unsettling atmosphere, I saw the figure of someone from behind. I felt terrible for having made my friend wait in such a sinister place at that hour, but as I got closer, I started to doubt. My friend's hair was blonde, but in the darkness, the hair of the woman in front of me looked more gray or white. When I stopped, I noticed the woman was wearing a blue sweater. Not wanting to investigate further, I turned around and ran toward the avenue. I was lucky that a taxi had just dropped off a passenger. I quickly got in and didn't look back. I later learned that the exit where I had seen the dead woman led to EJ Central. Later, I apologized to my friend and told her what had happened. She said she had waited a few minutes with her friends, but didn't see anything unusual, nor any woman in a blue sweater. The next day, I checked the newspapers, but found nothing about a corpse in the metro. However, I am still haunted by the curiosity of what the security cameras in the station captured that night.
I remember that day at university as if it were yesterday. The campus, vast and open, always felt like a refuge nestled between 2 neighborhoods. It was a place where people passed through leisurely, and I felt at home, even though I knew I had to venture out for my sports classes and face the small hill leading to a solitary forest. Though my house wasn't far away, every time I descended that hill, I felt a blend of familiarity and apprehension. That day, I decided it was best to visit my boyfriend, who lived just across the way. However, I never imagined it would lead to one of the most intense experiences of my life. The atmosphere in his apartment was tense, as we had both had difficult days. The air felt thick with palpable discomfort. With each word we exchanged, the hints became more direct, making confrontation inevitable. I felt trapped in a dynamic that, though familiar, I no longer wanted to endure. On impulse, I picked up my little dog and decided to leave. It wasn't the best decision, but pride pushed me to escape from a place that had become uncomfortable. It was nighttime, and although I knew I should return, my steps confidently headed into the darkness, distancing myself from the tension I had left behind. Protect me from all harm, I thought, as I walked along that desolate road, lit only by the distant lights of the university, which seemed to fade further away. With every step I took, my dog stopped to sniff everything, as if the world was full of intriguing mysteries. Each pause irritated me more, enveloped by the solitude of the road and the overwhelming silence. Just when I thought I had made a wrong decision, I saw two dark figures approaching. Although an initial unease washed over me, I told myself that company wouldn't be so bad after all, especially in such a desolate place. However, before I could calm down, I sensed something following me. My heart raced as I tried to discern whether it was my imagination or if something in the darkness was lurking. Every noise around me seemed amplified, and the breath of something behind me made me feel vulnerable. It was a moment of terror I had never experienced, and while I wished to be brave, adrenaline pushed me to quicken my pace. I tried to stay calm and focus on reaching the approaching couple, but the feeling of being followed intensified. Fear compelled me to run, and with each stride, my mind filled with dark thoughts. I recalled the stories I had heard about that desolate road, and the possibility that something truly dangerous could be lurking in the darkness. I called my dog, trying to keep her by my side, even though panic made me want to look back, something I knew would be a mistake. In my desperation, the couple noticed my distress and hurried to help me. The woman, appearing worried, quickly approached and urged me to calm down, trying to soothe me. Her words were comforting, and even though my heart continued to race, I felt I could trust them. The man, noticing my dog had become distracted, began calling her with a gentle voice, trying to get her attention. At that moment, my mind focused on the couple, and although I still felt an ominous presence behind me, their support made me feel a bit safer. When I finally got my dog to my side, the man advised me to hold her with the leash, reminding me that our safety was the most important thing at that moment. As the couple drew closer, I noticed a mix of concern and determination on their faces. The woman gently caressed my forearms, a gesture that made me feel a bit calmer, as if she was transmitting her strength amid my vulnerability. The man continued calling my dog, and in a moment of clarity, I realized I needed to act quickly. I must keep my dog safe, I thought. With trembling hands, I managed to put the leash on her, feeling the tension in my chest begin to ease a little. The couple, visibly worried about my state, offered to accompany me to the university. The idea of having company on that final stretch of the journey greatly relieved me. We walked together, their footsteps echoing in the silence of the night. And although I still felt the lingering anxiety, the presence of these strangers provided some comfort. As we neared the university lights, I glanced back and noticed that the darkness was slowly dissipating. That experience taught me about the value of companionship and safety in uncertain moments. He looked at me seriously and said, "Don't let your pet loose in this place." In that instant, I felt a sense of calm returning to me. What had been following me no longer seemed to be present, and I felt grateful for the couple's company. I shared what I had experienced, and I saw their faces reflect concern as they listened to my account. When I finished, the woman whispered in a grave tone, "Never scream on this path again." My heart raced once more. What did she mean? I told them I just wanted to get home, but they, with nervous glances, insisted it was better if we returned. Despite the fear, I didn't want to go back to my boyfriend's house. Looking at them intently, I explained that I had no one in that neighborhood. They exchanged silent glances filled with concern, and decided to accompany me to the university. As we resumed our path, the man approached me and quietly said, "Walk with your eyes on the ground." Immediately, I lowered my gaze, sensing something strange was happening. We began to move at a brisk pace, and my eyes focused on my dog. Everything seemed fine until she started pulling me back, refusing to move forward. Panic sank into my bones. Despite not having much strength, I tried to drag her. Then I began to hear the sound of galloping horses. The man, keeping his voice a whisper, urged me to keep my eyes on the ground. The echoes of the gallop grew louder, and each step I took seemed to bring me closer to the university, but curiosity overcame me. Looking up, I saw the campus lights just a few steps away. However, panic took hold of me as I noticed faces around me, faces I couldn't describe, but that looked like demons. The galloping became deafening, followed by a chilling screech that echoed in my ears. It was a sound I had never heard before, like the screech of a train or the dragging of heavy chains. I couldn't explain it, but I knew I never wanted to hear that noise again. Terror paralyzed me. Suddenly, I felt myself being pulled, and in the midst of my fear, I saw the couple in front of me, urging me to run. It awakened a survival instinct within me, and I began to run toward them. In the distance, I spotted the university guard, and we ran toward him. As we crossed the threshold of the campus, surrounded by the lights of the street lamps, I lowered my head to catch my breath. The guard looked at me in surprise and asked me to calm down. When I finally found my voice, I looked to thank the couple for their bravery, but they were gone. Only the guard, my little dog and I remained, and a wave of horror washed over me. Horrified, I asked the guard about the couple who had been with me, but he assured me he had never seen anyone else. He told me that from the moment he saw me, I had been alone, which seemed completely impossible. I saw them arrive. They were with me. Seeing my confusion, the guard asked me what had happened. With a shaky voice, I told him that I had seen the couple. He looked at me seriously and asked if I had screamed. Nerves surged through me again at his question. Slowly, I replied that I had, and his expression grew even graver. "They say that whoever screams at night in that place awakens the death that resides there," he said, and his gaze sent a chill down my spine. I couldn't comprehend how I had ended up in this situation, and the echo of his words resonated in my mind as I tried to grasp the magnitude of what I had experienced.